Bonjour, alle good and good afternoon. It's, of course, a great pleasure for me to welcome here today the Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja Kallas, who I must say, since the very beginning of my term in office in November last year, became a very good advisor and friend. She welcomed me very warmly in my first European Council, but I think it was not only because she is a very competent and nice person, but it was also because our countries, Estonia and Luxembourg, share a lot of common visions, a lot of common values. We believe in a European unity. We believe that Europe is important for our security. Europe is important for our economic development. We share the view that the single market is important because our companies, obviously, in smaller jurisdictions, need to work together with our neighbors, and these are all issues that we discussed in this first working visit of Mrs. Kallas to Luxembourg. So we had a good discussion on bilateral issues on the one hand and on European issues on the other hand. On the bilateral issues, I must say that we can learn a lot from Estonia. It's a country that has been very strong in digitalization. Since the very beginning of the independence of Estonia, I think you have been a leader in having an administration, a government, a country that is very modern in this context. Luxembourg is very strong in data. We have cooperated in the past in this area, and I think we can do more in the future. I give you a concrete example. I exchanged with Prime Minister Kallas, for instance, on e-voting. You know that my government has said that we are exploring ways to make voting more digital in the future. This, as you know, is an issue where we have to learn from other experiences, and I'm very grateful to Kaja Kallas that she said that we can exchange their experiences, or they will share their experiences rather with us on how that works. So there's know-how that is very impressive for us to get inspiration from. So I think we have we discussed together how we can cooperate in areas also related to security. You know that Luxembourg has, for instance, quite some experience with satellites, the satellite capabilities that we also put at the disposal of other NATO allies. And these are areas where, again, it's a combination of digitalization, of space, of security, where our countries can work together also in the future. So this is also important because I think, and I've always thought that Europe is rather complex as a construction. We are 27 countries, so it's not enough that the larger countries share common views. It is extremely important that we try to find alliances and unite on a number of issues. I mentioned, for instance, single market. I could mention others, and it is our intention to make sure that on quite a number of issues, Estonia and Luxembourg will try to coordinate their views, to exchange between our civil servants, and of course to exchange between us and our ministers prior to taking decisions at the European level, because we think cross-border, because we are smaller nations in Europe, and it is this combination of a lot of medium-sized and smaller countries together with our larger countries that we will make sure that Europe becomes stronger. And Europe must become stronger. I'm very pleased to see that the pro-European parties constitute about 2/3 of the new European Parliament. Obviously, there are some differences in some countries. I have always thought that extremist parties do not find the right solutions for the future, neither of their countries nor of Europe. It is in the middle that we have to work for the future. We need a stronger Europe to have economic prosperity, to have a common social understanding, to fight against climate change. No country can do that on its own. We need to have a secure Europe, and no country can achieve peace and stability on its own. We need to do that with our neighbors, and the terrible war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, reminds us that on issues of security, on issues of stability, we need to work together. We need a strong Europe, and we need a strong NATO. And so we need to make sure that this works, and therefore I'm pleased to see that the leading center parties of Europe decided to unite their forces. We saw that during the first informal gathering of heads of state and government last week in Brussels. The EPP, the Social Democrats and the Liberals want to work together to make sure that we can implement the promises we made during the election campaign for the European Parliament. And obviously in that context, the European Council that we will have as of tomorrow, in Brussels, we meet again tomorrow, will be very important to get not only positions filled, but also to have an agreement on the next strategic agenda for the European institutions 24-29, the new legislature we are embarking upon. And there again, a secure Europe, a prosperous Europe, a democratic Europe, rule of law, these are important elements we strongly believe in. I think I can speak for our two countries. That is the foundation on what we believe in, and that is where Europe is so important. In that context, I must say that on the basis of also what Prime Minister Tusk said here in Luxembourg last week, when he said that we are going into a direction where it is likely that a proposal will be made that Ursula von der Leyen will become Commission President, Antonio Costa, Council President, and Kaja Kallas, High Representative for Foreign Affairs of the European Union. I must say, if that package will be proposed like that tomorrow, we will discuss that, but such a package would find my full support and the full support of the Luxembourg government. I'm not saying that only because Kaja Kallas is standing next to me, but because I observed during the 8 months that I was in office, but also on the basis of her professional experience, that she's extremely qualified for that position. We share, Kaja, that we both started our lives as lawyers, and I think that's always a very good basis. Kaja Kallas was partner in different law firms in Estonia, I think also working on EU law. I think these are very important elements for the position that she's contemplated for, but also as a leader of her country, she has shown, also during the Ukraine crisis, that she has quite a good understanding of world affairs, and therefore, if that proposal comes up tomorrow, as I said, that finds our full support. And in addition, I have to say that it is very important for us that Estonia and Luxembourg, whoever is in power, work closely together. People are important in politics, institutions are important, and we need to combine all that together. Let me conclude by another nomination that was announced today, which also finds my wholehearted support and for whom we voted. That is the designation of Mark Rutte, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, who has been here 3 weeks ago or so, and who has, as you know, been now, after quite a long process, by consensus, designated as the next Secretary General of NATO. NATO is a key element of our common security. I believe in a strong link between Europe and NATO. I don't think that Europe can do it on its own, but I also don't think that America can do it on its own. So we need NATO as an instrument to strengthen democracy, to fight for our principles, to have a defense capability, and at the same time we need to do our effort in Europe, because we cannot just rest on the shoulders of the United States. That's also why I have announced a few weeks ago in Parliament that we will increase our defense expenditures. But again, to do that, to find useful ways to spend that money, we also will look at possibilities to work with Estonia and other friends how to do that in an efficient manner, both in spending the money, because money needs to be spent carefully, but also so that at the end of the day, the defense of our countries, of our values, can be efficiently achieved. And let me close by saying that Ukraine reminds us of what it means to be independent and free, but Estonia as well. When I was at school, I learned in this country that Estonia is occupied by the Soviet Union, and Luxembourg never recognized the occupation of Estonia. So we were always told that country was independent, Soviet Union invaded it, like it happened to our country during the Second World War, with the difference that Estonia was for a very long time under Soviet occupation. And it's a strong reminder that fighting for liberty, fighting for freedom, fighting for values is not something that is just in some solemn declarations. It's something that we have to fight for every day. And I think Kaja Kallas is the right person to know that through the history of her family, through your own life, because you were born at a time where Estonia was not yet independent, and therefore I'm very happy to have you here, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come, wherever that function might be. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Dear Luc, dear media representatives, first of all, thank you for the kind words. This is meaning a lot to me, but also to Estonia. We have a very special connection with Luxembourg. First of all, Luxembourg is hosting our data embassy. So this is first ever of a kind, and we are very grateful for that. I mean, in terms of very turbulent times, this is giving us a lot of security in terms of having a data embassy where everything is secured also outside Estonia. And second, Luxembourg is a home for a very active Estonian community. So we have a lot of Estonians here that you also take good care of. And regarding the digital cooperation, it is true that we have good cooperation, but there are also points where we can do more. And of course, we are happy to share the experience of online voting. As I always say, people are living their lives online, so that the governments should also be there where the people are, and the people should be able to do things online also what comes to democracy and participation in democracy. So we are glad to share our experience. We are also good partners in European Union, but also in NATO. We are very grateful for Luxembourg for your contribution to our collective security in NATO's eastern flank. Most recently also the remarkable support for the renovation of Amari air base that hosts Baltic air policing mission. We have similar challenges because we are small countries, and one of those challenges but also opportunities for us is the single market. We discussed how the single market can better function so that everybody will benefit from this, and especially the small countries have a lot in stake for the single market functioning. We also face the same challenges. So the largest of these challenges is, of course, related to security. Russia's full-scale war of aggression continues in the heart of Europe. And in the Middle East, conflict has brought huge humanitarian costs, and there is also a grave danger for escalation. We can't forget that Russia has enough capacity to cause damage and harm in various fronts in Europe, but also beyond our borders. For example, the increased cooperation with Iran and North Korea and its growing footprint in Sahel region, which in turn also increased the migratory pressure on Europe. I'm here today also because we discussed how we can continue supporting Ukraine, and also what is at stake really if we grow tired of helping Ukraine. I think the outcome of this war is existential, not only to eastern countries of European Union, but to Europe and the world as a whole, more transatlantic community. We must not be afraid also to spell out Ukraine's victory as a goal. We have both Luxembourg and Estonia giving a lot of military aid to Ukraine. Together we also co-lead the IT coalition, which is also important in terms of cyber assistance that is necessary. We are helping them in various ways, and it's not only the battlefield success that determines the outcome of this war. We also must continue to weaken the Russian war machine and strengthen sanctions. We just had a decision to adopt another package of sanctions, but we can't stop there. And already now, Ukraine needs as much as their needs are much bigger than they can get because of also building up the country. When you talk to the Ukrainians, then they say that they also need hope, and the hope that they can get is from reconstruction of their country, showing that it's good to live there and it's possible to live there, and it's going to be better after the destruction has been repaired. Sooner than later, Russia has to be the one who pays for this. Not our taxpayers, but Russia. They have to pay for the damages they have caused. This is why Estonia also recently passed a law allowing to use the frozen assets to the benefit of Ukraine. And I think it is important. Additional efforts and money are also needed in order to improve our own defense. We also discussed that the strength of NATO comes from different strengths of different NATO countries. So I also look forward to the discussion that we're going to have tomorrow in the European Council, how we can further boost European defense readiness. In NATO, we have to ensure that our common security and defense plans are really also implemented in practice, and that means that all the NATO countries also have to invest more in defense. And finally, what we also see is a coordinated, hybrid activities across Europe that we have to talk about amongst ourselves, but also put a plan together how we can really address these issues. So the hybrid attacks of Russia against our own countries, European countries in different parts, and more attempts to destroy civilian infrastructure and sabotage facilities related also to the different arms deliveries, but not only, also creating chaos and fear within our own societies. So we have to be aware of these things. We have to also treat these events in connected ways, not to treat them in isolation, and to have also common response and reaction to these events, to put the picture all together, what is at stake. So thank you again, Luc. This has been a wonderful visit so far, and we're going to have a lot of meetings today, more in Luxembourg, and I'm also looking forward to the discussions we're going to have in European Council tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you. Some questions?
soon. Yeah. Kikamp Tageblatt. Question to Prime Minister Kallas. Do you think that the next EU High Representative should make a proposal to abolish unanimity in the Council of Foreign Affairs Ministers?
Yes, whoever the next High Representative is, then we definitely going to have the discussions about this. I first of all would want to focus the discussions on what we do together. So then we can talk about how we do these things together. Coming from a country that didn't have a voice for 50 years, we really value the voice we have around that table, which means that everybody is taken into account. Yes, we know that countries act differently. There are countries like Luxembourg, small countries like Luxembourg and Estonia, who have been very constructive in really using that voice around that table. And maybe there are countries who haven't been that constructive around that table. But I think we need to have the discussions first on what we do together, and then more how we do these things together. Thank you.
Jacques Ganser from Radio 100,7. Question to Prime Minister Kallas. You have always been a very strong defender of the Ukrainian cause, and you have been very intense in defending these interests. As a high representative, probably high representative, how would this impact your role if ever you'll be the high representative? And don't you think that you will have to make much more compromises than in your role as a Prime Minister of Estonia?
Yes, so it turns out to be a job interview, right? As a representative of the European Union, I totally understand that the mandate comes from all the member states, and I think the role of different persons who hold positions on the European level is to bring all these positions on board. I think we are strong as Europe when we have a unified position. Then we show strength, and we have to aspire to have common and unified position on different issues. That, of course, means compromising by all the parties, 27 countries around the table. But we can focus on all those things where we agree and build on that where we agree. So definitely, I understand that the role of the High Representative is totally different than the role of Prime Minister of one country.
I would like to stress here what Kaja Kallas said, that goes for all, and she said it, but I want to stress that. All those who speak on behalf of the European Union always speak on behalf of the member states or the members of the European Parliament or the Commission. They don't speak in their own name. And I think that should not be forgotten in the people who preside over the various institutions of the European Union. They first have to listen, and then they take out of that discussion a message that they bring to the outside world. This being said, it is extremely important that we try to speak as much as possible with a common voice towards the outside world, so that we are taken seriously and that we are taken, that notice is taken of us in the rest of the world. And I think that is why Europe is so important, be it in foreign affairs, be it in general. And therefore, the key jobs that we are trying to fill tomorrow or Friday need to keep that in mind. It's about persons, it's about a program, but the program these people mention is always something that we will discuss together. And it is sometimes a compromise, it is a consensus, but that is the strength of Europe. If we have 27 different voices, our voice will not be heard. If we have one voice, might not be possible on everything, then we will be heard. That goes for foreign affairs, that goes for economic topics, that goes for values, for rule of law. Together we are much stronger. It's unity in diversity, as the slogan of the motto of the European Union is, and therefore these roles are of course representative of this diversity, but also above all of the unity.
Thank you. It's Ines Kurschat from the Luxemburger Wort. I have one question for Mr. Prime Minister Luc Frieden. We hear that from Brussels that Germany is very much supporting Nicolas Schmidt's candidature as a commissioner. What do you say to that? Is there any direction already when it comes to the Luxembourgish question?
We first need to, we have treaties, and these treaties foresee that our first task is, in accordance with the treaty and taking into account the results of the European elections, to elect a president of the European Council, to make a proposal for the president of the European Commission, and to make a proposal for the High Representative. Those negotiations have been taking place and are taking place, and tomorrow the negotiators of the three parties of the political center, which I mentioned before, will come up with a proposal. As I said, that is a proposal, if it goes into that direction, that I can support. All the rest is part of within the competence of the Luxembourg government. It is for the Luxembourg government, for me as Prime Minister, to make a suggestion to the President designated of the European Commission, and I will take that decision in line with the results of the elections and in line with the coalition agreement that we have entered into in November. And it is for the other parties to make their proposals for European top jobs, but the proposal for commissioner is within the competence of the Luxembourg government and of nobody else. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
To be received by His Royal Highness the Grand Duke later today.